Hello, and thanks for joining us today. I'm super excited you could be here because today we're talking about some of the most advanced tips and tactics that you should know if you're already investing in real estate or you're thinking about investing in real estate. And with us today is really one of the most diverse investors and trainers that I know because he deals a lot of areas of real estate and does a lot of really cool things. So with us today is Zach Lemaster. Now, Zach is the founder and CEO of Rent to Retirement, the nation's leading turnkey investment company. So, Zach is a seasoned real estate investor and licensed broker that has accumulated a large portfolio of rental properties across multiple different markets, including single family, multifamily, commercial, and new construction as well. Now, Zach is a licensed optometrist who practices on a volunteer basis, and he started investing in real estate while working as an optometrist and captain for the U.S. Air Force. Now, this eventually allowed him to retire early from his career in medicine to be a professional investor. Now, by strategically investing in markets that maximize cash flow, appreciation, and equity, Zach then went on to build a successful wholesaling, flipping, and management business working across multiple markets, which led to the foundation of Rent to Retirement. Now, he's considered an industry expert in real estate and market analysis, and Zach has been published across many exceptional national platforms, including Forbes, USA Today, Fox News, NBC, CBS, Veterans Affairs, Think Reality, and the Inc. 5000 as well. Now, he is passionate about educating others on the numerous benefits of real estate investing and how to use real estate as a means to create the lifestyle each person desires for their family. Zach, what's up, man? Thanks for joining me today.
Hey, Ty, excited to be here. Thanks so much for such the outstanding intro.
Yeah, let me ask. I mean, we're both Air Force veterans, so what made you make the jump here from where you were as an optometrist into real estate?
Yeah, it was never an intention. I was never one of these guys, Ty, that was like, "Oh, I hate what I do. I just want to, retire myself early." That was never the goal. I started investing in real estate probably about 15 years ago at this point, when I was first commissioned as a captain in the Air Force because I came in, I was on scholarship, in optometry school at HBSP, and then commissioned as a captain directly to the Air Force. And I actually bought my first property before I even got to my first duty station, so it was almost immediately. But I used a VA loan, bought a duplex, lived in half, rented out the other half, and really just fell in love with real estate from that point on. I mean, I kind of like the idea of, hey, I can, use someone else's money, i.e. the bank, especially with no money down, or the VA loan, to be able to buy an asset that I can live in, but I can also cover my rent by renting out the other unit in it, and then move out of it and keep it as a rental property that cash flowed well, appreciated over time, had tax benefits, all the things. So I just kept investing since that first duplex. I always tell people I've never taken a year off. I've purchased real estate every single year since then. I'm not saying I've made money on all my deals, but I'm just saying that I've never given up. Stayed consistent to investing, and that's allowed us to build a very large portfolio now. That's really allowed us to, yeah, transition full time into operating this business, being full time real estate investors. My wife's also an optometrist. I met her in school, but we're very passionate about eye care still. I mean, we have international humanitarian efforts for setting up cataract clinics and things like that in third world countries. So, you know, real estate has allowed us to create a lifestyle that where we have the time and the financial capability to have a bigger impact through eye care and just do some other things. So, it's been a journey, but it just time and time again, I'm reminded that real estate investing, I think it's the most predictable path to wealth, and that's certainly the case for us.
Zach, you've done a lot of different things: multifamily, commercial, long-term rentals. I think maybe long-term. I know you've done short-term rentals, even on the luxury side, or not the luxury side. I should say lifestyle type assets as well. So, do you still dabble in all of it, or do you spend most of your time in one area of real estate?
Our core business, Rent to Retirement, we're a build to rent provider and a turnkey provider. And as you mentioned, really the nation's leading one. We did about 900 transactions this past year across 18 different markets, helping our investors build their portfolios. But that's mainly in residential real estate. That's single family and small multi-family properties that we either build or rehab, lease, and manage for our investors strategically across the best markets in the country where people can maximize cash flow appreciation and equity, because that allows investors to, regardless of their experience level or regardless where they're geographically located, allows them to invest in areas that make the most sense and offer the best returns where our team's handling everything for them. And so because of that, our core business and a probably a strong portion of my portfolio will always be residential real estate. It's predictable housing, right? We're talking about providing a human necessity, which is housing. There's a undersupply of 7.5 million houses in the U.S. right now, so there's a huge affordability crisis. So we love there's the bread and butter housing solutions. I think that's the most predictable path to wealth. I think is a great place to start and scale. We've done a lot of different things in real estate. We've done a lot of commercial, industrial. We've done a lot of retail. We still own 11 retail centers, but going through this whole cycle, Ty, I've kind of come back to realize like single family, it may not be the most like sexy thing out there in real estate, but it's really where I think the core wealth is built. And we just love operating in residential real estate, and we'll always do that to, for the majority of our investment portfolio.
So when you're working with, you have a lot of investors under you. So how does your model work? Do you help investors get into the industry and invest, and then you manage the properties?
We offer inventory, so we have a marketplace. These are houses that we either build, I guess, on the build to rent, because that's about 80% of what we do. We mainly focus on new construction. Yes, we have the traditional turnkey stuff, your 1970s house that's been rehabbed, it's $150,000 in the Midwest, that's got a 15% cash on cash return or whatever. That's your traditional turnkey. We certainly have those, but the core product of what we do is build to rent. And we do that in two ways, Ty. One, we're a builder, so we actually build houses, lease and manage them for investors. So we sell them to the investor, right? And we also manage it for them, but we give them all the tools and resources and lending that they need. We can dive into some of the unique lending options we have where people can buy multiple properties, like with as little as 5% down, things like that. So we either build properties, but that's about 10% of the builds we do. The majority of the builds that we make available to our investors on our marketplace are actually built by national and regional builders. These are well-known builders like LGI Homes, DR Horton, Lennar, Toll Brothers. And what we do is because we are doing large volume as a company with economies of scale, we actually go to these national builders and we're able to negotiate wholesale type of pricing. We have to commit and say, all right, Toll Brothers, we're going to take 250 homes of yours this year in these select markets. And because of that, we're able to get preferential pricing that we can actually pass on to our investors. So for example, and those, that could be dramatic. It's, often 10 to 12% below market value pricing. So like on a $300,000 house in the Southeast, like in your neck of the woods, we could have an A-class new construction asset that's brand new built, has builder warranties, all the things where the investor can buy it, 207, if it's a 10% incentive, they can buy it $30,000 below market value. So on a $300,000 house, 10% is $30,000. They can buy that at $270,000 to come in into immediate equity. Of course, it'll still be great positive cash flow. We'll lease and manage the property for them, so it can be a passive investment. Or what they can do is they can take that 10% incentive and actually get it as cash back, or use it to buy down rates into the 3%, which is a crazy low rate to maximize cash flow. The majority of investors actually take the cash back because if you're putting 20% down on that property, which is $60,000 on a $300,000 house, and you get $30,000 immediately back in your pocket, like that's a great way to increase ROI, to stretch your capital further. As I mentioned, we have loan options where you can put as little as 5% down. So if you're getting 10% back and putting 5% down, you literally can be into a brand new construction house for no money out of pocket, working with local credit unions that have portfolio loans to do that. So that was really long-winded of me. But basically, yes, we identify the markets that have the best opportunities. We build our local teams and systems in those areas to build or rehab properties, lease and manage them for investors where they can make strategic investments and diversify and scale their portfolio across the country.
So I love everything you said, and I'm a finance guy. So anything to do with that, I love. So let me ask you this: when you're doing these loans, where you're basically building them and then renting them, are they doing like a CP? Are they doing a construction perm loan, or are they doing like are an end loan when the construction is actually completed?
Yeah, we're building the products. Either we're building it in-house or one of the national builders is building it and completing it. So the investor is buying the end product, right? They're having a house that's completed day one. Oftentimes homes are even rented prior to closing. Depends on the inventory. So they're buying a house that's already done, ready to go. They can put whatever financing they want on the back end. So if it's traditional financing, right? Most people use conventional loans, putting 20, 25% down, or maybe some of these portfolio loans where it's 5% down as a long-term buy and hold investment.
So you did mention a couple times 5% down, and then you also mentioned some financing options. And so what is that? What type of financing is available for somebody once the property is built for them to actually be able to get financing on?
Yeah, it depends on the investor. We don't dictate what financing you use. Our goal is to make the best options available to you based on your goals. So you can use whatever loan structure you'd like. I would say vast majority of our investors are using your Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac loans. They're putting 20% down on a 30-year fixed loan. Again, with, that incentive of anywhere between 6 to 12%, they can buy the rate down significantly on that to really increase cash flow. But we do have, in our network, a lot of different creative loan options for people depending on their scenario. If you're someone who can't qualify for traditional financing, say you're self-employed or you maxed out your Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac products, there's different investor loans. We have foreign nationals if you're international to qualify. The 5% down loan I keep talking about is just, and I mentioned that because it's unique for people. A lot of people think they have to put 20% or 25% down, to own an investment property unless they're doing like an FHA or like a VA like I did. This is a portfolio loan, and this is just one of many examples where you can finance up to 5 investment properties with a local credit union. This is available in most states, not all states, where if you still have to qualify for the loan, you still have to have good credit, good DTI, but they will finance up to 95% of the purchase price on the property. There's no PMI, which is really nice. This is a portfolio loan that the credit unions hold in-house and is a pure investment property. You don't have to live in the property. You can finance multiple if you qualify. So that's a really unique strategy to be able to stretch your capital further. If you had a 20% down payment, instead of putting that all on one property, in theory, you could do 5% on 4 properties and have 4 streams of income, own larger amounts of real estate. We have a lot of investors that do creative things like with the tax strategies, doing accelerated depreciation and cost segregation studies because they're high income earners and they need a big tax break. So that's a great way to own more real estate sooner and to get these massive tax breaks, but also just to diversify and scale your portfolio. So, we have the products available. We have the inventory, which is a newly built house or rehabbed home that we lease and manage strategically throughout markets that we know are in the path of progress, that are growth markets. We have appreciation both in home prices and rents, but we try to set you up for success by making available the best lending opportunities based on your scenario. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah. And like a lot of us are entrepreneurs. I think everybody's an entrepreneur that's watching this. So that being said, you really focus on, you have opportunities there too. If I can't go Freddie or Fannie because I can't go full doc, then there's opportunities out there with DSCR or other kind of financing where I'm able to still get in without a lot of money down, even if I'm not able to prove my income as a W-2 earner would.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have a lot of investors that cannot get conventional financing for one reason or another. They're business owners, they're limiting the taxes. So we have plenty of loan options for any investor.
Now, if I come in and want to build a certain type of property, am I working within what your builders build? Meaning, like you just mentioned, 300K. So let's just start there. Are there all the properties that we're building about that same amount? Or what if I want to come in and build a high-end luxury property that's in a destination location that I want to use a lifestyle asset? Maybe I want to spend 1 million or 2 million. Do you deal with that, or are you looking at what typically rents the most and then you're building those?
Yeah, I mean, we have a fundamental criteria that is a proven path to success for us. So it's not like someone come in and say, no, we work all across the country. We have 18 active markets or 18 active states, actually more markets than that because, we'll work in multiple markets within a state. So we do have a diversity across the US, but we intentionally build a particular type of product in a specific market that we know is going to produce a specific return on the back end. So, it's just the inventory available at any given point in time. We have 60 to 80 homes for sale that are done and ready to go across the market. So you can choose from those, or if, we're always opening up new markets as well. We have small multifamily and single family, but these are first areas that we've identified that have like the location is really important. We want areas where you're below the median house price point, right? This is median house price point in the US is roughly 400K, give or take. So we want to be below the median house price point. That gives us the largest demographic of tenants, largest demographic of retail buyers when it comes time to sell that house. We want to be in areas that are in the path of progress, that have population growth, that have an undersupply of housing. That way you can have strong appreciation. You can keep your house rented to a quality tenant, not have turnover. And be able to raise rents incrementally every year. We want to be in areas that have landlord-friendly legislation, low taxes. So naturally, a lot in the Midwest and the Southeast those are really in the Southeast are more growth markets. Price points range anywhere from like 120,000 on that rehabbed Midwestern house to anywhere of we do have some multifamily or some high-end properties that go above the $1 million price point as well. It just depends on what you're looking for. But like we have a process to follow to ensure that we're going to provide predictable results and it's working within those criteria.
Not a lot of people build the rent. One of the only ones I know of that does. I think it makes a lot of sense. One of my buddies does this on high-end properties, just freaking kills it. I mean, like he builds the thing and makes like 700K just on the equity before he even rents the thing. And then luxury rentals, it's like it's crazy how much money can be made on what you're doing. Swears by what you're saying. That you, if you're going to do this, you need to build and then rent, not buy and then rehab and rent. So that being said, what is the benefit? What from your perspective, why build versus rent versus do what everybody else is trying to do, which is buy and rent or buy and rehab it?
Man, we've just made Ty such a transition over the years. As I mentioned, I've been investing for about 15 years now, and new construction is just the way to go for multiple reasons. Yes, typically you come into new construction with immediate equity, which is a benefit. Generally, builders are building an area where there's a supply and demand discrepancy, right? That's economics 101. So you're building in an area that has an undersupply of housing. That means not only do you come in with immediate equity, but your home is appreciating quickly in value. We want to be in areas where you can positively cash flow anywhere from an 8 to 15% cash on cash return, if you're using leverage. So the cash flow numbers make sense in specific areas. So you truly can have cash flow appreciation and equity in the right location, right? A lot of people think it's a spectrum. I got to choose a cash flow investment or an equity investment, and they're chasing equity. Like in the right market, you can have all three. But generally speaking, new construction, you attract better quality tenants. You have less maintenance, less turnover. You'd have zero capital expenditures for at least that first 10 years. You have builder warranties on everything in the house for at least for that first year. You have, structural and mechanical warranties for sometimes 10 years. Like it's just more predictable. And over time, we found that new construction, they appreciate better. They have more consistent income. They just produce better results, and you build wealth quicker on new construction. Focusing in the right markets, and rehab properties. We still do some of that. We cut our teeth doing that. That's a lot of variability. That's a lot of work. Those houses don't have the appreciation potential that new construction does. And there's a lot of maintenance stuff that comes along. Even if you fully rehab a house, if it's an older house, it's still an older house. So, that's why we like new construction.
Yeah, living in this city, these assessments are crazy what people pay. Like, I mean, I would never even buy a place in the city, like 10 years old. So what you're saying makes a tremendous amount of sense versus actually buying something and actually building it instead. Short term or long term? It sounds like you're more of buy and then put long term tenant in it. Is that
Yeah, our bread and butter is long-term rentals. I mean, that's just very predictable. Short-term rentals, we do have some short-term rentals. In fact, we do have a whole short-term rental program where, if people want to come in and take accelerated depreciation and the tax benefits of, doing a cost segregation study and things like that, but they wouldn't qualify as a real estate professional because they can't meet, they're full-time employed, both them and their spouse. They can't meet that 750 hours, whatever the case is. We have a short-term program where people can come in. They kind of like self-manage for the first few months or whatever that calendar year is, and then they turn it over to management the next calendar year, but allows them to take that accelerated depreciation. But we do have some short-term rentals. That's just really unique to the market. There's more variability and fluctuation with short-term rentals. Often it takes 2 to 3 to 4 years to really optimize the performance on that property. It's not really coming out of the gates at maximal performance. Long-term rental is just really predictable. You have your cash flow every single month. There's predictable returns, things like that. So that's the vast majority of what we do.
So it sounds to me like I come to you and I say, "Hey, man, this Zach, this sounds fantastic," and you help me find the market. You help me find the property. Actually, I say this is the perfect property. Then we go in. I'm able to then buy that property. Construction's done before or after there.
Right. Yep.
And then at that point, I close on the deal using creative financing that you've been able to help guide us through to be able to figure that out. Now I own the property, and then you're able with your training to guide me on putting a long-term renter in there, or you do it and then take over the whole management of the property. And then I just get a property that has immediate equity in there and then start getting like a positive cash flow every month in rent. Fairly accurate?
Yeah, I think you did a great job, Ty, breaking it down. I mean, when we talk about turnkey investing, and that's a buzzword that has a lot of different definitions, I think people historically think about turnkey as like, the 100-year-old house in the Midwest that's in a C or D class area that's got a little bit of rehab done. Like, that's not us. We're working in B and A class areas. The majority is new construction, A class assets. The goal is to build a portfolio that you're not having to actively manage, right? And diversify your portfolio and avoid a lot of the common pitfalls and mistakes that people make. So we have brand new investors that need a little bit of hand holding and they want to get started. They want to expedite their success. They don't want to hit those common pitfalls and mistakes just because they don't know what they don't know. trying to do it all by themselves. They just want to have a straight line to success owning real estate long term. We all know that true wealth is built in real estate, holding assets. You can do whatever you want with flipping, wholesaling, like building wealth in real estate is building a portfolio, long term buy and hold portfolio over a period of time in the right markets with the right team. So that's our goal. So we have new investors that we help get into that first property and get, build their confidence and their foundation. We have busy professionals that are like, hey, I want to own real estate. I don't want to actively manage. We have full-time investors that are working on their projects and their businesses, making really good money, but they're like, I need to buy more real estate for tax benefits, or I need to diversify my portfolio. So we provide a very easy way for them to acquire more assets where we're handling everything for them, right? So this is really more on the passive end of the spectrum of real estate investing. It's not purely passive. I don't think anything is, but it's certainly on the more passive end of like long-term buy and hold real estate.
So, do you have maybe a case study, an example, of somebody that in the last, let's say, the last year, you have 900 of those, an example of what this can look like? And again, before you share this to if you watching this, it's not to say this is a standard of what's going to happen. There's a lot of variables and what kind of returns and stuff you're going to get. But I just want Zach to be able to give you an idea of an example so we can kind of learn. So, Zach, do you have an example like that?
Yeah, plenty. I mean, it's not too exciting to talk about the app. We want things to be predictable, right? And not overly challenging or exciting. I mean, the typical house would probably a new construction house is probably be $250,000 on average, which that's hard to get in a lot of areas throughout the country, right? Like, I know in Tampa that's a more expensive market. We work in some suburbs of those areas, like in between Tampa and Orlando, like Poinciana and Polk County. That's an area where, hey, we can still build a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house for whatever $280,000 that's renting out for $2,300 a month. So like that's good cash on cash return in a market that's appreciating because people are moving out to the more affordable suburbs and has high demand. So our typical deal, yeah, call it $250,000. You can put 20% down, or if you're using conventional, or you can use a creative finance method to put less than that down. You're probably gonna look at cash flowing between $400 to $600 a month, depending on the property. So net, that's after all, management expenses, even future vacancy, future maintenance, even though you shouldn't have that on new construction. So, it's really predictable way to just consistently yield an 8 to 12, possibly 15% cash on cash return on a new construction asset that's appreciating well over time. Probably a better example, Ty, would be some of the more creative ways that we work with some of our high net worth investors. Like we had this surgeon couple. In December was a really good, it always is a big month for us every year because people are trying to fit those in for tax benefits. But this was a doctor couple that came to us and fairly new to investing. They're obviously busy in their professional career path, but they're like, their local market didn't make any sense in the world to invest in. They were based in, I think it was LA or somewhere in California, and it's just too expensive. They maybe could have bought one property. We helped them buy 5 properties that they closed on before the end of the year. They put 5% down on all these properties using the local credit union that I talked about, where they were able to qualify. All of the new construction properties that they bought had incentives between 6 to 10%, 10% cash back, or they take it as a price deduction, whatever that's up to you as the investor what to do. So long story short, they were able to put down 5%. Their portfolio was roughly $1 million that they bought total assets. At $1 million, they were able to put um, less than $50,000 down on the properties to acquire those assets. They got money back from the builder that covered that $50,000 plus some. So they virtually bought a new construction portfolio of 5 single-family homes that was just over $1 million in total value that they put no money down on. And they did the short-term loophole route that we were talking about, where they managed it throughout the end of the year, and then we took over management after the end of the year. So they were able to do accelerated depreciation without being real estate professionals. These were the first investment properties that they bought, and they did and I'm just kind of rounding rough numbers here, but it was like 1.2 million was the total acquisition. Their cost segregation studies came in at 36% on those. So times 1.2, and we're not removing land or anything like this for this purpose, just for simplicity. But they had a $432,000 tax deduction. Now that's at 100% bonus depreciation. Last year was at 60%. And I know moving faster this. So, their studies, I think I said 36% on that 1.2, 432,000 takes that times point 0.6, 60% of that. That was a $260,000. That's a true tax deduction that they were able to acquire with cash flowing assets in an A-class area. Actually, all of those they bought were in Florida, where they got a $260,000 immediate tax deduction. So they were super stoked about that. They still had their money to keep in reserves and reinvest in other assets, but we created a $260,000 tax deduction for them with no money out of pocket, acquiring 5 houses. Like that's the type of creative stuff we work with people on.
Wow. I mean, that's a crazy example. Like I asked you for an example, but that's like crazy example. That's awesome that that's even possible. And I think people underestimate that tax incentives and benefits that you get with real estate.
100%. I think when I think about building wealth, I'm interested to hear your opinion on this, but like there's a few key things that there's a few light bulb moments for me as a real estate investor throughout my career. I'm like, oh, I can do this. And oh, by doing this, I'm saving a significant amount. Like this is where you get this hockey stick growth in your portfolio and your net worth. Some of those things would be like investing in locations that are in strong growth markets where you can really capitalize on appreciation. And there are markets in any market cycle that are very appreciating very well. You just have to know where to find those. Investing in new construction would be another light bulb. Like those are just better assets. Reinvesting our equity. So doing things like cash out refinance, and because there's a return on equity, right? If you have equity, even in your primary residence, equity sitting in a house, your return on equity is diminishing over time as you build equity and don't do anything with it. So reinvesting your equity. But the biggest thing certainly has been the tax benefits in real estate investing. We run a successful business. Our goal every single year is to buy enough real estate to offset all of our tax liability every single year. That's just way more money that we can reinvest to buy more assets that have additional tax benefits. You get the snowball effect, right? So, like just being a tax conscious investor, because real estate has more tax benefits than any other asset class out there, hands down. And that's the best way to give yourself an immediate raise, right? Is limit your tax liability in real estate investing. That's just more money that you otherwise would give to Uncle Sam, never see again, that now you can reinvest, earn a return on, earn cash flow on, reinvest, have more tax benefits. I can go on and on. But that's one of those things that's like, oh, I can do this. Man, it's just trajectory of wealth.
Zach, really powerful stuff and stuff we've just never heard before on the show. So I appreciate you coming on. Where can everybody go that's interested in jumping in and learning more and getting started with you guys? Where should they go? What should they do?
We always want to drive people to our website. That's renttoretirement.com, renttoretirement.com. We have our own podcast and YouTube channel with hundreds of thousands of subscribers. We got a big community. We're always putting out market data. We got investment calculators. If you're just interested to learn about some of the loan options I talked about, whether you're interested in investing in turnkey or not, we're happy to share those. Our goal is to add value to every single person we speak with. We don't charge investors anything to work with us. We make our money from building and selling houses like builders would and managing them. So, it's if you just want to have a consultation about learning about different markets or what turnkey does. Also, if you're listening to this audio, you can also text REI to 33777. And the best thing to do is just schedule an appointment with our team to learn more and answer your questions.
I love it. Zach, thanks for coming on with us today.
Ty, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much.
All right, so listen, if you're watching this, make sure you go to renttoretirement.com. If you go to renttoretirement.com, phenomenal site. I mean, you can see they have a video library there. They have a podcast, blog, tools, and resources that you're able to access right on the website as well. Plus, on there, you're able to be able to get in touch with them. You're able to access frequently asked questions amongst many other different resources to be able to see how you can actually use this for tax incentives, for wealth, for retirement. Look, we both know that this is the way to go with real estate investing in real estate. But what Zach showed you today was probably something you've never heard or seen, which is basically a clear path to be able to do it the right way, to be able to get into a property instantly and have equity, which is very hard to do, especially in a market in Tampa like where I am. It's hard to get into a property and have instant equity. You're able to actually do that and be able to get it with little to no money down, potentially even no money down when you're talking about the incentives coming back to you to offset the amount of money you're putting down. This is like ridiculous. And again, then you have somebody that can help you manage the property in every different aspect. So this is one of the easiest, smoothest ways to get into real estate and be able to make money right away the minute you're closing, and then be able to continue to create more wealth as you accumulate more properties. It all happens in one place, and the one place is renttoretirement.com. Spelled to correctly, it's T-O. So renttoretirement.com. Make sure you check it out right now. Check out the resources and jump in on this so you're able to get your hands on the kind of wealth that real estate investing can be able to bring for you. So make sure you check it out, renttoretirement.com. Thanks for tuning in. Take care. Have a great day.